Yeah. Mondays at 5, it's the Windy City Chicago Bears podcast with my guy Patrick Schmidt, who is doing a better job on this podcast than me with his Bears flag. I'm still working out, but I feel very Barry with the background here at beautiful fan-sided Central. Schmitty, good to see you. Tough day for the Bears. Ryan Bates going back to Buffalo. Bears Twitter is very angry.
Yeah, this is like the second strikeout on the free agent market. Larry Ogunjobi last week with the failed physical. This week, the offer sheet is signed from Buffalo. So two big swings and, two moderate-sized misses, I guess. But I applaud the effort and the attempt nonetheless.
So, okay, you're in applaud mode. And by the way, last week we talked about Larry Ogunjobi for like 30 minutes, and Schmidt yelled at me in our meeting. So we're not going to go too long on Ryan Bates, but I got excited about Ryan Bates, and like you're applauding the signing. I think that it speaks to a good identification by good old Ryan Poles. Like, this was a guy who started 4 games, and the Bills didn't want to pay him $17 million. That's what Brad Biggs, our guy at the Tribune, reported was the offer, and they went ahead and did it. So I actually think, okay, Ryan Poles, you identified somebody who could have helped, didn't happen, but you took a fair swing, and hats off, man. Good job.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, right? Finding talent, evaluating talent, finding these bargains on the free agent market, identifying guys who maybe didn't have a big role with their existing team, and extrapolating that out and projecting how they could fit in with the Bears organization. And yeah, this guy wasn't a 3 or 4 year starter, a guy like Teron Armstead on the, who signed a big deal with the Dolphins, but it's a guy you think his best football is in front of him. He was going to be outside of that 1 or 2 year financial commitment with some of the guys that they had already signed off the street. So I like it. And you got to go for guys on this offensive line, as we're going to talk about a lot, with supporting Justin Fields and building the foundation around him. So I like how they structured it up front, load that up in the first 2 years, a lot of guaranteed money, basically dare Buffalo to overspend, so to speak, or maybe get a little bit outside their comfort zone to bring him back. But Buffalo, they're trying to win the Super Bowl this year and next year while their window's open. So, they're gonna swing for the fences. Bears, good shot. It just didn't work out how we wanted.
Yeah, so congrats to the Bears, even though non-congrats. Hey, thank you, by the way, for checking into the Windy City Bears podcast. New show live on YouTube every Monday at 5. The audio podcast will come out the next morning, so stay there. If you are, don't worry, audio fans, you get it a little bit later because we got to move it over there. But we're live at 5 on YouTube every Monday. Any Bears questions you have on the YouTube channel or live during the show, we're going to obviously talk about it. We love the interaction. We love when you leave a review on Apple Podcasts as well. So for our audio listeners, if you leave a review and or ask any Bears questions, we will hit that on the next episode. And Schmitty, I spent my Sunday creating a Chicago Bears email for us, the Windy City Bears podcast, the Windy City Bears podcast at gmail.com, which like we can talk life, send personal emails, things you might not want to put in the Apple world. Feel free to hit me at the Windy City Bears podcast at gmail.com. Are you proud of me for that? I thought that was a big move for the show.
It's a very good proactive move. Like you said, this is a show for the fans, by the fans, with the fans. So we want the fans to reach out to us. Let us know what you want us to talk about, which players the Bears should be targeting in free agency. Who are some names in the draft that the Bears could be potentially eyeballing here ahead of April's draft? And basically what are our expectations for this year's, our hopes, our dreams, our wildest fantasies for the Bears. We want them all to come true. Be a part of this journey with us. We're starting out scratch. So come be a part of this team with us.
Yes, Fridays at 5, no place. Fridays at 5, Mondays at 5, no place better to be, and hit the audio as well. Schmitty, by the way, for those just getting to know Patrick, is a draft expert. He's on our college football site as well at Fansided, which our guy Brian Williams getting in the chat here. I think we're good. Get Watson and Pearson the second. The rest is needs. You can speak to that. I don't. Listen, that's an interesting spin on what can go on in the second round. What do you think of Brian's idea?
You know what? When Alec Pierce, guys from Glen Ellen, I'm from Glen Ellen. He's a Glenbard West guy. I'm a Glenbard South guy. I would love to see a hometown guy on the hometown team. Sometimes we got to be a little careful not to overvalue some of the hometown guys or the local guys. We've seen it for years with the Notre Dame connection with the Bears. But, he tested really, really well at the combine, really solid player. If the Bears want to double up at the wide receiver position in the second round, it wouldn't be too bad. Watson was a guy we talked about on the show last week, a really good freakish athlete. Really had no kind of competition at North Dakota State. The guy's 6'4", about 210, 215, sub 4'4", 40 guy. So was this a guy that just dominated inferior competition, or is this a guy that you could expect big things from? Alec Pierce and Watson, it might be a nice little deadly combination there. We'll see.
Brian, I like what you're doing out there. You're moving things forward, and I think Schmidt just backed you, so well done. All right, we'll get to Schmidt's College Quarter coming up in a little bit, but I do want to get us into the Matt Eberflus conversation on Peter King's podcast, which was super interesting because when Ebertlus spoke at the start of his Bears tenure, which is about 5 minutes old, I don't know about you, Schmitty, but I was instantly bored. This guy is Bears coach Mark Trestman, Lovie Smith, who, by the way, was weighing in at the owners' meetings today. But I didn't find him interesting at all. But on Peter King's podcast, shout out to you, Peter King, I actually found him to be fairly compelling. I took a ton of notes here. They asked him about his fourth down philosophy, and he seems like he's going to be aggressive, and they go into analytics, and he said, quote, "It fuels your instincts. It informs you to make good decisions." He liked the fourth down decision in the Super Bowl. So, the analytics part of the conversation, are you going to be Brandon Staley and always go for it on fourth down? I think like a lot, I'm kind of old school that way. Like I think it seems like insane to me when you're on your own 18, but that makes sense to me, right? You use it to inform you, and you don't always live by it, but it's there, and it's a part of your decision making.
Yeah, absolutely. Use all the information you have at your disposal to make better, more informed decisions. And then, when the time is right, factor in that gut instinct here. Don't be afraid to factor that into the equation here while you're crunching all the numbers. So I definitely like the notion that Eberflus is going to be a little bit of a gambler, be aggressive when the time is right. I don't think he's going to be going for it on 4th and 6 from their own 25, but 4th and 2 from the opponent's 45, maybe that's a time where they're going to decide to go for it rather than punt. So I'm definitely in favor of using the analytics and using some new school football math to our advantage here, because let's face it, some of the previous regimes, way too conservative, way too limited in big picture ideology and just kind of moving forward with the next generation of football. It felt like they were always playing catch up. Maybe Eberflus is a guy that, he's right ahead of that cutting edge forethought and kind of insight.
Right. And you're a defensive guy, which, by the way, the Bears are still working on their entire roster, but it's not like his fourth down decisions. You're going to be dealing with an elite offense. You're going to be dealing with a subpar offense. And I want to talk about the quarterback today. But, the more I dive into the quarterback, and listen, I've watched every Justin Fields game. I've watched every Bears game for a decade plus. But, like, looking back at the numbers, like it looks worse than it was in the moment. And like, I'm almost thinking, like, did I overvalue him in the moment? I mean, 2-8, 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, completion percentage under 60. I mean, by the numbers, strict numbers, he was awful. Like all I remember is like the Pittsburgh game. Oh, he looked great. He was flying all, like, and they should have won that game. But like in reality, the dude was bad. I mean,
yeah. He had all of the come to the NFL moments, I guess you want to say. Like it was a rough year. You look at the Steelers game, moments in the Packers game in Lambeau. There are moments and flashes, the touchdown against the 49ers where he kind of ran across the field. There are definitely glimpses and flashes. In year 2, you want those glimpses and flashes to be more sustained, not like Haley's Comet streaking through the sky every 86, 87 years or so. But yeah, you gotta steal possessions. You got to maximize the possessions you have. You can't be punting the ball over and relying on the defenses as an offensive league. You need to do everything you can while you have the ball. If that means going for it on some fourth downs when you may otherwise punt, hey, the risk is going to have to, or the reward is going to outweigh the risk in many cases. So I love it. Be aggressive. And I think that aggressive mentality and mindset is going to win over Eberflus here, with Bears fans.
So Eberflus on Fields, Schmidt, he's very confident, quote, in Fields' confidence. And then he talks about how you have your biggest growth between your rookie and second year in a lot of quarterback cases. I picked out 3 of them. There's obviously 7 zillion we could put. Like the gold star is probably Carson Wentz, right? 7-9 his rookie year, and then the Eagles win the Super Bowl. 7-9 his first year, 16 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Second year, 13-3. Now he got hurt, but the Eagles win the Super Bowl. He throws 32 touchdown passes, 7 picks. It's a huge leap, but same coach, Peterson and Peterson. This is going to be, different. Nagy to Eberflus, tougher degree of difficulty. I looked at Sam Darnold, a guy who went from he starts with Todd Bowles as a Jet. He goes 4-9, 17 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. I'm not going to go through every, and I understand there's more stats than that, but just for like a bearings here, they went 4-9. His second year, 7-6, touchdowns up by a couple to 19, interceptions down by a couple to 13, as Adam Gase comes in from Todd Bowles. And then look at a guy like Kyler Murray, who clearly plays a lot more like Fields. Like, is that going to be a legitimate jump? 5-10 his first year, 20 touchdowns, 12 picks, then 8-8, 26-12. And again, Fields 2-8, 7 touchdowns, 10 picks, and sacked, league high 36 times. So I'm just trying to figure out what the hell is realistic for this guy in year 2, right?
I think you got to just kind of forget everything that happened, break up the men in black, the light phaser, whatever, just clear everything that happened last year. Getting rid of Matt Nagy and the offensive staff that was here last year. Whoever is replacing them, it's going to be a net positive. I think we still need to be a little bit patient here. And no, this is going to be a long, well, maybe not too long, but we're basically just resetting the dock here. So you mentioned some names. We've seen a number of head coaching changes, but I think definitely agree with the sentiment that you see a huge leap between that rookie year and that sophomore year. Basically, that first year, you're basically just trying to learn the NFL and get used to it. You're moving into a new city. You're being a pro for the first time ever in your life. So I think there's a lot of off the field stuff that you got to get used to as well. This year, it's all football. And, he's going to be in that second year with Mooney, second year behind some of these returning offensive linemen, second year with David Montgomery behind him. So I think he's going to be a little bit more comfortable and confident. And plus, he knows this is his team now. Last year was coming in with Andy Dalton as QB1. And anytime Matt Nagy or anytime somebody from the Bears was behind a microphone, they were saying, Andy Dalton's our starter. Andy Dalton's QB1. That's not the case now. So Justin Fields knows it's his team. It's his time. And I think just that mentality and that confidence alone is going to show up well between the stripes. And I'm excited for that first training camp. I think I don't want to put numbers attached to it. I don't want to put wins attached to it, but I think we're going to see improvement from Justin Fields across the board.
I'm looking at the comments here. We got good money to get our line solid from Brian, which you just saw across. And then here comes Zach Best, who I believe might be a Chiefs fan. Byron Pringle coming over, should be a reliable target for Fields, but they're going to need more than him and Mooney. Correct. I'm with you, Zach. But I am allowing myself to at least be excited by the Fields and Mooney in Atlanta working out together, putting pictures on Instagram, both looking like they're attacking the offseason. They're doing this on their own time. This is not a Bears sanctioned activity. And those two were incredible last year. That was like the best thing going for the Bears offensively. And so a lot of people don't think that Mooney can be a number one, Schmidt. I don't know where you come out on Mooney, but I'm actually slightly hopeful that he can.
He's going to have to be a number one this year.
Right.
I think on a Super Bowl team, he's probably a 2.5-ish, but on this team, he's going to have to be the number one. I think Pringle, though, can be a nice little kind of a tool in the toolbox, so to speak, operating out of the slot. I still would love to see that 6'4", 6'3" kind of just stud receiver, and maybe they find that in the draft, like we talked about with Watson at the top of the show and last week, or somebody else in the draft to be named later. But Pringle, Mooney. I think those are two guys that Fields will have to rely on. They're going to have to expect a big jump out of Cole Kmet too. So all these guys, there's going to have to be a collective jump. Tevin Jenkins on the offensive line. Larry Borum, is he going to be a starter? Both those guys are going to have to make significant jumps. So if all 4 or 5 of those guys can make a significant jump, it's good. I want to say like it's essential. It's a necessity. That's step 1 for the Bears to be competitive. And then you got to be competitive before you can be a playoff team. And then you got to be competitive before you're a playoff team, and you start Super Bowl. So it's all in the process, and we got to trust that process. And we're really at the very beginning stages. Well, I guess really the first step of that process was trading up last year to get Justin Fields, and everything else. It's all about maximizing this talent that is Justin Fields.
I get it. Walk before you run. The Bears at best are crawling right now. Byron Pringle, by the way, you mentioned like where he's going to line up. Like he was in the slot, 61% of his snaps last season. Carm research here, always very high, Schmidt. 42 catches, 568 yards. That's 13.5 yards per catch. Very solid. 5 touchdowns. But, and he had a ton of talented receivers around him. We're going to be relying on you more here. There's no Tyreek Hill, RIP Kansas City on that trade, although I actually think it's a good deal for the Chiefs. Story for the podcast tomorrow with Matt Verderam at 11. Check out Stack in the Box. But, Pringle's calling Fields elite. He's looking at him saying, like, this dude extends plays. That's what I'm used to. He's not saying he sees Patrick Mahomes, but he sees that type of quarterback, so to speak. And so maybe that'll be a huge little pairing here.
Maybe elite potential is a nice way to package that. I mean, if everything works out, you're talking about this guy being a top 5 to 7 quarterback, but a lot needs to be put around him along the offensive line, and they're starting to do that. They hope Jenkins can be good. The center, Patrick, they signed. Maybe Larry Borum is a great find in the 5th round. But yeah, you got to hope the tight end plays well. Hope both these receivers play well, and you keep adding to this. But, fingers crossed. But it all relies on Justin Fields, and we saw the flashes. We just need to see sustained flashes moving forward.
Offensive line talk always moving the needle. But Brian Williams, again, what are your views on Cody Whitehair? Can we get a 3rd round pick for him? I'm very colored on Whitehair because, like, when Bears Nation, Bears, whoever fell in love with Whitehair, I've been doing the Hampton OB postgame show on WGN for 7 years. Those guys never were a fan of Whitehair at all. And now I'm like, maybe they were right. Like I'm sitting there like, well, everybody else is singing Whitehair's praises, but it's like he's not. He fits under the Poles doesn't want huge offensive lines. Whitehair at least can move. But I think at this point, like, everything is wide open on that offensive line because, Poles clearly has a vision for what he wants to do.
Yeah, you hope Tevin Jenkins can be a fixture at left tackle. Maybe he's not even a tackle. Maybe he's a guard. We'll find that out soon. Cody Whitehair, I think he's an okay player. I think he's average. He's holding down a spot here. He's certainly not a Pro Bowler, all-pro kind of a talent. If he's the 4th or 5th best player on your offensive line, I think that's ideal. But it's been kind of a sad state of affairs here in Chicago where he's had to be the best offensive lineman on this team. And that's you're not going to win many games when Cody Whitehair is your best offensive lineman. So just got to surround these guys with more talent. And we're at the bottom here in that talent acquisition mindset here. So he's an okay player. I don't think they're going to trade him. Certainly, if they did trade him, they wouldn't get a 3rd round pick for him. They'd probably hope to get a 6th round pick for him. A 3rd round pick. I mean, you kind of look at some of the quarterbacks that have been traded this offseason. You're not getting a 3rd round pick for Cody Whitehair. Maybe a 6th round pick, but I think he's going to be in the plans for this year. If they were going to move him, they probably would have already tried to move him. They know James Daniels is gone, so I think the Cody Whitehair just a guy.
Listen, I'm hoping they're going to be able to get a 6th round pick for Nick Foles and package it with a 7th. And Zach's asking about trading up. The Bears have, just to remind everybody, 2 picks in the 2nd round, 39 and 48. They've got 1 pick in the 3rd, 71. They've got 2 in the 5th, 147 and 149, and then they got 1 in the 6th, 184. I hope you're the draft expert, so you tell me. But in my mind, I'm not packaging picks to move up, and I suppose I'd be okay with moving down. But you have so much freaking needs. I would rather just stay where you are and get the best players. And unless you're going to dump players, like you don't need Nick Foles anymore, you signed Trevor Siemian. I didn't get that signing. We can talk about that in a second. But I'm not putting up any picks to move back and move forward. That's how I would look at it.
Yeah, the first of their 2 second-round picks, I'm probably going to want to stand pat there. Hopefully they can get a top 30, a guy that they have a first-round grade on there in the second round. Maybe that second-round pick, the guy they got the pick they got in the Khalil Mack trade, maybe that's a spot where you look to move back in the second round, acquire an extra third-round pick, maybe a pick in next year's draft. But like you said, too many holes on this roster to fill. I'm not giving up the limited ammunition they have here to move up for, what are you going to do? Draft a wide receiver at 27 instead of in the 30s or 40s. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be too aggressive in that respect. But yeah, I'd probably move down from their second of 2 second round picks, see what they could get for an extra 3, extra 4, something like that. And yeah, I know Ryan Poles said today, we'd love to trade Nick Foles. Make us an offer. Basically, you could have him. You got a 7th. You got the 238th pick in the draft. You want to give us for Nick Foles? Please, we'll do that. So I think they view this as a sunk cost. Basically, they could get a 7 for him. That's fine. Bringing a 22-year-old player here, maybe he can contribute on special teams. Maybe help this team move forward into the future, because Nick Foles, he's not doing anything to help this team win now or in the future.
So. Why I don't get how they think that Trevor Siemian is worth anything to them when they have Nick Foles. Like, what am I missing here with Trevor Siemian? Saints last year started 4 games. Whatever. They're the same guy. Am I missing something here? Why do we have to like that? I don't get it.
I think they view him just as a better talent, a better player if he needed to play this year than Foles. And fingers crossed. I think the Bears have their fingers crossed that they can get a 7th round pick for him or something, and either way, Foles isn't going to be in the roster in August or September. I think his time is coming to an end here. It's just a matter of how soon it's going to be. Trevor Siemian was a bargain for I think $4 million or whatever it was, even for a backup, even a non-talented backup. So it was a little bit surprising that they did make the move, but knowing that they did sign Siemian, he'll be the backup. Nick Foles, he's going to be traded or cut, but either way, he's not going to be in the Bears 53-man roster to start the year.
And just for the record, Wildcat fan over here, it's adorable that Trevor Siemian, the cat, is coming back. He split time at Northwestern with. How am I forgetting his name? Kane Coulter, right?
Coulter,
yeah. So, this guy's been in the NFL for a long time. I wonder, did Pat Fitzgerald perhaps in a rare moment miss the boat here? Should Trevor Siemian have been out there more? But it almost seems like it's personal with Foles to me. So I'm not sure. Like Ebertlus has talked to a lot of guys. So did his conversation with Nick Foles not go well? Was he too honest? Did he rub the coaching staff and or Ryan Poles the wrong way? I'm not exactly sure. Go ahead.
I don't know if it's anything about that rubbing him the wrong way. I just think, hey, this guy can't play, and they think Trevor Siemian can play. But to kind of bottom line this, if Trevor Siemian is playing extended downs, extended games, we're all screwed basically. So it's like, hopefully Trevor Siemian is not playing much this year, but I think, push comes to shove. If you had to play Trevor Siemian over Nick Foles, you'd roll the dice and go with Trevor Siemian, but fingers crossed Justin Fields can play a full 17-game schedule, get all those reps, and Trevor Siemian will just be that, classic veteran backup.
You're 100% right. Trevor Siemian's on the field. That's the last thing that you want to have. It'd be a complete nightmare, and Brian Williams bringing in the Mike Glennon. Please don't put Mike Glennon on the show. It's really
triggering.
It's a trigger moment. Mike Glennon at Soldier Field for the when the Bears drafted Trubisky, and
Yeah.
and he's sitting there like hobnobbing with all the big shooters. Like, yeah, my name's Mike Glennon. I'm the new quarterback. Okay, no, I'm not anymore.
Yep.
I'll actually start 4 games and go 1-3, and you guys are about to pay me $18.5 million to do it. I want to go back to Eberflus real quick. He's reaching out to former Bears, Schmidt. The Bears have been renowned for basically, we don't give a shit about our alumni. Mike Singletary was basically begging to come back here and wanted to be considered for a head coach. And then, he's on the radio talking about, yeah, I don't have a good relationship with anyone. I talked to Ted Phillips once in a blue moon. I negotiated my own contracts. And so Eberflus is reaching out to guys. He says 50 guys. And I know for a fact that like Dan Hampton, who I do the Bears post with, he texted Hampton. And I'm like, and I asked him, have other coaches done that? Nope. So this is a different thing. And he's talking about bringing Peanut to training camp to teach the peanut punch. I'm not saying it's going to be a huge deal, but it feels right? Why would you run away from your history? Why wouldn't you want Dick Butkus showing up at Hallis Hall to talk to the current Bears, right?
Absolutely. It's all about building that culture and the family element and recognizing your history and the people that have worn this helmet, been in the trenches, been in this stadium. I love it. This is a huge, huge early win for Eberflus and his organization to reach out to the Bears greats, the legends, the guys whose jerseys are retired. They're in the Hall of Fame. Bring in Peanut, bring in Urlacher, bring back Olin Kreutz, Hampton, right. Singletary, all these guys that have just, they're living legends. Like, have them come in for a couple hours in a training camp, in a mini camp, just to let the players just listen to them for 20, 30 minutes. However, have them go through some drills, just let them be there and just kind of soak up that ambience. But for me, that's just a huge culture win. And I just got to say, for Matt Eberflus, like, I love this guy. He hasn't even coached a game yet, but knowing he's doing that, like, it lets me know his mind is wired the right way. And he's thinking incrementally, like, hey, this is the right way to build an organization, to build a culture, to build a foundation. You got to recognize the past to build a future here. And I just love that mindset, and I love that approach. And I hope as many Bears living legends, like just a short list of the guys that I mentioned, double that, triple that, quadruple that, bring them all back to Lake Forest, have them come in, let these new pups, these Bears, just kind of pick their brains and soak it up, just, to be in their presence, basically.
I mean, it's like football new regime 101.
Yeah.
You reach out to the class acts of the organization, the Hall of Fame players, the history of wearing that uniform and, feeling incredibly proud to run out, on Soldier Field or Wrigley Field, wherever. Let's go all the way back. Get Ed Obradovich a damn invite. Let's good job, Matt Eberflus. And one other thing he said too, that like I'm all about Eberflus today, and like so are you. We're falling in love with Eberflus. He they asked him about his relationship with Ryan Poles, and they have the same agent and all that stuff. And he said that he liked that Poles had, quote, emotional stability and emotional intelligence, quote, meaning that during adversity you can remain calm. So, I mean, he's taken the job, right? He wants to be a head coach in the NFL. I get it. But, like, at least there was some, at least in my mind, like hearing that he was sizing up, like, who am I working for here? What am I dealing with? And I think his criteria is interesting. Like, if I'm going to be in the foxhole with you, I don't want to be with a lunatic, man. We're going to ride up and down. And here's a guy in his mid-30s who impressed him enough that, like, I feel very confident in your ability to and he also talked about talent evaluation. Look at the Chiefs roster and look at his mental side. I that all adds up pretty well to me.
Yeah, and when I hear emotional intelligence, like, to me, that just says, like, we got some adults in the room. We got some grown-ups, making grown-up decisions now. So I love it. I think they're philosophically, mentally aligned here. This thing isn't going to be built overnight, but to be lockstep in unison right from the jump, I think that's going to be great. We're seeing this blueprint and philosophy in free agency, signing guys to 1 or 2 year deals, guys that are 25, 26, 27, low risk, moderate reward, stocking up as many picks as you can get, moving off some Khalil Mack, Eddie Goldman, some of these guys, and kind of building around Justin Fields. And we're going to see it primarily in the draft. And really next year, 2023, that's going to be the first big splash for the Poles and Ebertlus, just to kind of spend a whole bunch of cash and really kind of build up this foundation from the ground floor. But I love it. We got grown-ups in the room now.
High quality, high character guys. And yeah, okay, fine. The ceilings aren't huge right now, but neither's the money they're putting out. And you're right, Schmidt. Like they're gonna have a ton of cap space next year. I am nervous that, like, give Justin Fields a chance to succeed. Like that, and right now it ain't gonna be easy, man. Like you're asking a guy to go from one scheme to another. Who's not protected particularly well. Maybe it's going to be better, but it's not going to be great, and with not a ton of weapons. So you're borderline asking for a miracle right now. And I guess as a Bears fan, I want to, like, let's not over. And I think you said it earlier. Like let's not go crazy in year two and make it a complete. If he doesn't look great week, Justin Fields sucks and we need a new quarterback. I think we got to be realistic as to what's going on. Long off season to go here, but right now, I think expectations for Fields in year two should not be to have some huge leap, right?
Yeah, and when we look at this question, are the Bears setting up Justin Fields to fail? I don't think that's the case at all, because we're looking at some of the moves specifically at the offensive line, the swings and misses, even like we said at the top with Bates. You got to build up that foundation, because if Justin Fields is going to be good, he's got to have a great offensive line. You get that great offensive line solidified, then you could start making moves. If you're saying, why didn't the Bears go and try and trade for Tyreek Hill? Well, Tyreek Hill isn't the one big player that's keeping the Bears from making the playoffs or winning the North this year or winning the Super Bowl. You trade for Tyreek Hill maybe 2 years from now when you're a 10-win team trying to be a 13-win team, or you're a playoff team trying to win the Super Bowl. The Bears aren't there yet. I mean, it's not where we want to be, but it's where we got to get to be there. And that's why I don't think they're setting them up to fail. I think they're setting them up. They're not setting them up to fail. Could they have signed or traded for Amari Cooper and then traded for Tyreek Hill? Yeah, those moves look nice, but long-term wise, it's not going to work if that offensive line in front of them is hot garbage. So fix that offensive line, set up Justin Fields to have success, and then we could move forward.
I mean, 5 draft picks. You're not, first of all, the Bears didn't have a first-round pick.
Right.
You're not trading second, fourth, and they traded their 1 and 2 this year when you have Tua as your quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Dolphins are out of their freaking mind. And by the way, like, everyone's killing on the Chiefs and they're killing on the Packers. Like, how are they going to survive without Devontae? They're going to find receivers, man. They still have Aaron Rodgers.
You got Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. Exactly.
Right.
You get the quarterback, the rest kind of falls into place. The Bears are hoping they have the quarterback, and then they'll let things fall into place. Yeah, the Packers, I understand that. They're going to – what's interesting from the Bears' perspective is now the Packers and now the Chiefs, they're probably both going to be targeting wide receivers in the draft. So those are two teams who 2-3 weeks ago probably weren't looking to draft a wide receiver where they were picking in the first round. Now they have extra picks in the first round. They need to replace Devontae Adams. They need to replace Tyreek Hill. So those are potentially 2 wide receivers that maybe they get pushed down a little bit to the Bears in the top of the second round. Now both those guys are gone. So on one hand, you love to see the Packers not have Devontae Adams anymore. But, when you start looking from the Bears' perspective on that, there's going to be 1 and now 2 fewer wide receivers most likely for the Bears to have available when they pick in the second round.
It's a great point. And so, like, all Bears fans were jumping up now. We weren't being the Packers this year anyway. So it almost would have been better if they had just stood pat. But you're right. They're going. And if you go through the league, there are a lot of teams looking for wide receivers, and there are a lot of teams looking for offensive line help. So good luck. You're going to have to evaluate really well, and some are going to, this is the beauty of the draft. We're going to have hits and misses. Schmidt, let's run through some final topics here. Again, the Windy City Bears podcast live on YouTube every Monday at 5. Hit that subscribe button and turn your notifications on, so you will have all of our content, and we'll be doing extra shows, and we'll have Bears interviews. We're going to have a interview with Ed Obradovich coming up later in the week that I did with the OB a little bit ago. So we're going to get that posted. So hit that subscribe button, and we appreciate you jumping in. Brian, love all the chats from you today. Appreciate it. So we tackled Tyreek and Devontae. Let's give a shout out to the Detroit Lions, Schmitty. Welcome to Hard Knocks. The Fighting Campbells, 3-13. Hey, I would have loved Ebertlus on there, man. I would have loved to see, can we get a Bears on Hard Knocks? I'm actually a little jealous of Detroit.
Yeah, it seems like forever I've been wanting to see the Bears on Hard Knocks, and they never seemed interested. It's just such an old, outdated mindset. Like, come on, let's do it. It would be such a great opportunity to kind of open up the Bears to the rest of the nation. And I think that's what they're afraid of, to see just how dated this organization is from the top. But, I kind of like, it's always going to be fun. You could always find positives, but these are always better when you have the bad teams. And kind of, I think they are limited to like the non-playoff teams, first-year coach or second-year coaches. So, hey, I don't know how many games the Lions are going to win this year. Hopefully none of them are against the Bears, but we'll see if Dan Campbell will certainly provide a couple of good sound bites. Jared Goff, second go around for Jared Goff on Hard Knocks. He was with the Rams a couple years ago when it was the Rams and the Chargers sharing Hard Knocks. So we'll see. Not a whole lot of star power for Detroit. Not a whole lot of positives for Detroit, but it's going to be a must-watch 5 episodes nonetheless. We're all going to be watching.
Lions, one of 3 teams that could not say no. So there you go, Detroit. You're in. Schmidt, let's do your college corner. We mentioned the draft picks and ran through them. Anybody that is exciting you on this March the 28th, as we're call it a month from the draft weekend, which is going to be a huge moment, in the first big moment really in the polls. Whatever, give him credit in free agency, but this draft is going to be enormous if he can hit some diamond in the roughs.
I want to throw another wide receiver into the mix here, kind of the halo or the cloud or whatever they call it, the bubble. Throw in, we talked about Watson and David Bell last week. Let's throw in a wide receiver from a power conference in the SEC. Had an injury last spring towards the ACL, missed pretty much the entire season, played sparingly in the SEC championship game and in the college football playoff. I'm talking about George Pickens from Georgia. This guy doesn't have this injury. We're probably talking about him as a top 15 lock in the draft, maybe wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. Big size, fits that X mold, 6'2 plus, 6'3 plus, big size, big frame, big catch radius. You just got to wonder if he checks all the boxes with the medical reevaluation. If that physical checks out, if you could get him to run before you draft him, I think, this is a guy that, played pretty much on an NFL feeding factory in Georgia, played against NFL guys in the SEC, against Florida, Alabama, all these guys in the best conference in the country. You get a guy like him in the second round, I think this guy has so much potential, and we see a number of second-round receivers come into the NFL and find success right away. So he's a guy that I'm eyeballing here to see kind of where he's going to fall in mock drafts. I think this guy, like I said, a top 15, 20 talent that maybe the Bears could get in the top, 45. So another name to add to the mix, it could be, you talk about a first-round talent that you get in the second round. So just would represent great value and great upside.
It's an interesting concept that you're throwing out there, because would Ryan Poles, in his first year as general manager, take a guy who's coming off an injury? I'm having Kevin White flashbacks right now.
Hey, even Tevin Jenkins last year,
right?
I could understand the whoa, from Bears fans. Like, we don't want to take another guy that's got a questionable injury history here. I get that. I understand that. The thing with Tevin Jenkins, that was a guy, a top 20 talent that they got in the second round because of his injury. So there's some risk and reward there. If you're going to swing big, you want a big reward. I understand that if Watson's off the table, if David Bell's off the table, and if you want to get a great wide receiver, the draft is deep at that position, but it could thin out pretty quickly here. So if you want to get a round 1 talent, these are the the questions that you have to get. This is why he's going to be available in the second round. So there's no perfect prospect, but I get the little hesitation there though, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the same thing, but listen, Nicholas Morrow, who's a lot of people are excited about, I'm excited about, who coming over from the Raiders, one of the Bears free agent signing, didn't play at all last year. Had an ankle injury, and you know, when he was asked about it, he said, "Well, I was gonna, if we had won our last playoff game, then I was gonna play." So maybe that gave Paul's confidence, but I don't know if he's willing to take a shot on a guy like Morrow. Would he do that with the second round pick? We'll see. We'll see. I like the name, man. I like how you're thinking. Let's get a high end talent in here that will excite Justin Fields, excite Bears fans. All right, last one here for you. Just want to touch on the NFL is having their OT conversation for the zillionth time. You're a college football guy too, Schmidt. Why can't we just do college OT to the NFL?
Yeah, I don't get it. Now, granted, college football did tweak their overtime last year, and it was so dumb where they forced teams to start going for 2-point conversions. And it was just all 2-point conversions. That Illinois Penn State game it went like 38 overtimes and nobody could convert. But yeah, philosophically, start at the 25, 30, whatever you want to do. Say, hey, first team, just
start at the 45.
It's so simple. The 50 even, it's like, it doesn't need to be standard, kickoff and the other team gets it. But, I think at minimum, let every team get the ball one time. If the first team gets scores a touchdown first, let the other team get a chance to score a touchdown. And if they don't, game over. First team gets a field goal, let the other guys get a chance for a touchdown. Or if they field goal, we keep going. Ball
on the 50. Let's go. Yeah. And people are like, oh, it'll take forever. Who doesn't want to watch that forever? That forever is amazing. It's and NFL games, I get it. They're in their TV window, and it's a perfect 3 hours. And there's a zillion reasons why the NFL is popular, but that might be the biggest damn one. Yeah, y'all can figure out the window can be expanded for like amazing overtime. Bottom line, everybody, both teams should get the football in OT.
Yep.
I know that our Chiefs fans on this channel right now would agree with that, considering the playoff history. All right, Schmitty, we did it again here. Show 2 off and running. The Windy City Bears podcast every Monday at 5 on YouTube. Again, hit that subscribe button and check out the audio podcast for you over there. We're going to have some exciting stuff coming up here to show our appreciation to all of our listeners. So stay tuned for that. Yes, I don't know what I'm allowed to say right now. So I won't say anything more than that, but just trust me, you will benefit by watching the show. Hopefully, be entertained, but also, some good things coming your way. Schmitty, anything exciting you want to leave with today? How's your bracket? Anything? How's anything going on in the life of Patrick Schmidt that we should know about?
That bracket busted a long time ago. I had Gonzaga, Tennessee in one final, and then Gonzaga, Arizona, a couple of chalk picks in the other bracket that I filled out. So, I was loving the St. Peter's Cinderella run, and then I was kind of rooting for the Duke North Carolina matchup in the Final Four, and we're getting that. So it's going to be an absolute circus, and I can't wait to see it. Maybe the biggest Final Four game of all time. Maybe the biggest since the Christian Laettner Duke Kentucky game in 91, 92. So I think it'll be great. I think the ratings are just going to be absolutely insane. But hopefully we get 2 good games on Saturday and a good championship game on Monday.
Hey, Coach K, Jordan over Coach K. That's how we want this to end. Your career, outstanding as it be in Chicago, and Coach K for the record. I would love to see him go out to Carolina. It would be an amazing ending. The Blue Bloods doing it again. I was so rooting for St. Peter's and anybody who played Kansas, and it was really just not the way I wanted this to go. Hey, thanks so much for watching today. We're back at it next Monday, creeping towards the draft. Schmitty, great job, brother. Good to be with you, brother.
Good to be with you too.
We will see you all next week. Thanks for all the comments today, Brian, Zach, etc. We will see you next time on the Windy City Chicago Bears podcast.